You already felt it. Maybe not beneath your feet, but somewhere in the back of your mind, something registered when you heard about Venezuela. A magnitude 7.2 and a magnitude 7.5, 39 seconds apart. Over 1,400 dead. 68,900 missing. Buildings pancaked into dust in the time it takes to read a single sentence. And somewhere between the news alert and the scroll, a question formed that most people didn't say out loud. Could that happen here? The answer is not a matter of opinion. It is a matter of geological record. And the record says yes, not eventually, not theoretically, but with a specificity that should make anyone living near the San Andreas, the New Madrid, or the Colombia-Venezuela border pay very close attention to what happened on June 24, 2026. Because this has happened before. Exactly this. And the last time it did, America shook for 6 months. The year was 1812. On March 26th, a seismic doublet, two massive earthquakes in rapid succession, struck northern Venezuela along the same fault system that just ruptured. Caracas was devastated. Between 10,000 and 30,000 people died. And then, within months of that event, a cluster of magnitude 7 and magnitude 6 earthquakes detonated beneath the Mississippi River in America's heartland, the new Madrid Seismic Zone. The Mississippi River appeared to flow backwards. A new lake materialized overnight. Church bells rang in Boston, over 1,600 kilometers from the epicenters. And just days after the Venezuela earthquake, a doublet struck Southern California, a magnitude 7.5 followed by a magnitude 7.1. The same sequence, the same fault mechanics. A continent away. That was 214 years ago. The question that seismologists are asking right now, in the days following June 24th, 2026, is simple and terrifying. Are we watching that pattern begin again? To understand why that question is not as far-fetched as it sounds, you need to understand what a strike-slip earthquake actually does to the planet. Not just to the neighborhood where it strikes, but to the entire system of faults it feeds. The Venezuela doublet ruptured approximately 210 kilometers of fault in 39 seconds. When a fault ruptures at that scale, the energy does not simply dissipate. It propagates outward in three wave types: the fast P wave, the shearing S wave, and behind both, the surface wave, slower, longer period, capable of traveling around the entire circumference of the Earth multiple times before losing its energy. These surface waves are the mechanism by which a magnitude 7.5 in Venezuela can load stress onto a fault in California. Seismologists call this dynamic stress triggering. Research in the Journal of Geophysical Research has shown that stress changes as small as 0.01 megapascals are sufficient to trigger earthquakes on faults near their critical threshold. The Venezuela doublet produced surface wave amplitudes detectable on seismometers across the entire globe. Every major fault on the planet felt it. Now consider where some of those faults currently stand. The San Andreas fault system in California has been accumulating stress since 1857, 169 years without a major rupture on its southern segment. A University of Bern study published just weeks before the Venezuela event, using 1,000 years of earthquake history, confirmed that the combined San Andreas and San Jacinto fault systems are now at their highest stress levels in a millennium. The San Jacinto fault alone sits at 3.6 megapascals of accumulated stress. Past earthquakes on this system have ruptured when stress differences reached as little as 0.3 megapascals. The surface waves from a magnitude 7.5 strike-slip earthquake on an identical fault mechanism, arriving at exactly the right time, at exactly the right frequency, do not need to do much to push a system like that past its breaking point. Hours after Venezuela, a magnitude 5.6 earthquake struck northern California near Redwood Valley. Scientists were quick to call it a coincidence, and they may be right. A single data point is not a pattern, but 1812 was not a single data point either. It was a sequence, and the sequence began in Venezuela. The new Madrid Seismic Zone sits beneath the farmland of Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Illinois. Most Americans have never heard of it. That is precisely what makes it dangerous. Unlike California, where the San Andreas Fault is mapped, studied, retrofitted against, and built into the cultural consciousness, the New Madrid Zone is buried beneath 30 to 60 meters of soft Mississippi River sediment. The faults cannot be seen at the surface. They cannot be touched. They exist only as a pattern of small earthquakes, recorded by seismometers, and as the memory of what they did in 1811 and 1812. FEMA has modeled what a repeat of the 1811 to 1812 New Madrid sequence would produce today. A magnitude 7.6 event would cause 86,000 casualties, displace 7.2 million people, and produce more than $300 billion in economic losses. Memphis, Tennessee, sits directly above the most active segment. Most of its buildings were constructed before modern seismic codes. Its highways, its bridges across the Mississippi, its water and gas infrastructure, all of it is exposed. The soft sediment beneath New Madrid makes it worse. When seismic waves enter unconsolidated river sediment, the sediment behaves like a liquid. It amplifies the waves, extends their duration, and turns solid ground into something that moves like water. In 1812, the ground liquefied across 5,500 square miles of the Mississippi Valley, sand and water venting from the earth, forests collapsing, riverbanks sliding into the water. That process, called liquefaction, is still fully possible today in the same soils. The sediment has not changed. This is the geological inheritance that the June 24th doublet now intersects with. The Venezuela earthquake ruptured a right lateral strike-slip fault, the same mechanical type as the San Andreas, the same type as the faults beneath New Madrid's ancient rift structure. The seismic energy it released has now traveled through the crust of the North American continent. It arrived. The question is what it found when it got there. Here is the uncomfortable answer. It found fault systems that were already waiting. USGS data shows a 25 to 40% probability of a magnitude 6.0 or larger earthquake in the New Madrid zone within the next 50 years. That figure comes from paleoseismic trenching, scientists digging into the sediment to find evidence of prehistoric earthquakes preserved in the layers of sand and clay. What they have found is that the New Madrid zone has produced 3 or more magnitude 7 or larger earthquakes in the last 2,000 years. The recurrence interval is estimated at 200 to 500 years. The last major sequence was 1811 to 1812. That is 214 years ago. By the low end of the recurrence estimate, the system is already due. And Colombia is watching too. In 1967, when Venezuela produced a magnitude 6.7 earthquake, a magnitude 6.7 also struck Colombia 4 months earlier on adjacent fault systems within the same Caribbean-South American boundary. The 2026 doublet is far larger. Scientists at the Science Media Center noted that local faults near Caracas may have been loaded by the June 24th events. That loading does not stop at the Venezuelan border. Bogotá, a city of 8 million people built on a sedimentary basin, sits on a fault system that shares geological ancestry with the one that just destroyed La Guaira. So what does this mean for you? Right now, today, wherever you are. It means that if you live within 50 kilometers of a mapped active fault, the time to prepare is not after the next earthquake. It is right now. It is today. Because the one thing that every seismologist, every USGS report, every peer-reviewed study agrees on is this: we cannot predict the day, we cannot predict the hour, but we can describe the conditions, and the conditions in California, in the New Madrid zone, and across the Caribbean fault system have never been more clearly described as loaded, stressed, and capable of producing catastrophic rupture. Here is what that preparation looks like in practice. It is not complicated. It is not expensive. But it is the difference between surviving the first 72 hours and not. Your phone almost certainly has an earthquake early warning app down, Shake Alert in California, regional equivalents elsewhere. When a fault ruptures, the P wave travels faster than the destructive waves that follow. Your phone can detect it and give you 5 to 15 seconds of warning. In Venezuela, one survivor described receiving a Google alert a split second before the walls cracked around him. That split second was the difference. Beyond the alert, you need water. 3 liters per person per day for 3 days. A bag by the door with a first aid kit, a hand crank radio, a flashlight, and food that needs no cooking. Know where you will go if your building is no longer safe. Have a family meeting point, because after a major earthquake, cell phone networks fail within minutes. The people who survived Venezuela's doublet were not luckier. They were faster. They moved when the first jolt hit. You will have that same fraction of a second. Whether you use it depends on what you decided before it happened. The 1812 pattern may be repeating. Scientists are cautious about saying that. They should be. The data is suggestive, not conclusive. A single Venezuela doublet is not a confirmed predictor of a New Madrid sequence or a California rupture, but it is a reminder, carved in 68,900 missing names and 58,870 destroyed buildings, that the faults beneath America are not theoretical. They are real, they are loaded, and they will move. The only question is whether you will be ready when they do. Subscribe to Seismic Alert. We will keep watching.